just unfortunate that every time they come out with something, WWE figures out a way to take control of the narrative and take control of the headlines by pushing out through their surrogates in the media. And I said surrogates in the media, kind of bullshit stories. At the same time that story was breaking, not only did we get the seat filler story that was coming out, we would also get here's the rundown for today's NXT backstage news on NXT's lineup match order, right? Like that's what people are running with. And then all of a sudden it gets and this is something that Joe explained, and I think Rich did a good job explaining this too. Then what it does is it gets aggregated by all the different sites, and then it pushes down the Vince story down the pecking order of the headlines because they don't keep it at the top. They're just, it's like, it just, as you post a new story, the big story keeps pushing, going down, down, down further. And it defeats the algorithm in like a bad way to where like now that is not in the forefront of your mind. And honestly, I would say even on our podcast, we have fallen for it because we have gone with like, I would say bigger, more topical stories, you know, CM Punk, right? Which I felt like we had to, and I thought that was a great story, but we didn't probably focus as much on the Vince stuff the last couple of weeks as I had wanted to, mainly because there hasn't really been a lot of new information, but there has been this week. So we're jumping right into it. And we really wanted to give our take on this whole WWE PR stuff, because we've been talking about this stuff since before we joined Voices of Wrestling. This has been a topic that you and I have been covering for a long time.
It's something that both of us are passionate about discussing. Here's the thing. We're not innocent in all this. Like you are how do I say this? You are your concern is how the show grows, right? And how the show gets bigger and how we grow our network and our brand. Like that's really what Mike Gilbert kind of spearheads. And I respect that. But I mean, you play the game more than I would say probably anyone else in our network. You post a video and you do find the Tony Khan on the unflattering Tony Khan pictures and the headlines that will. I'm just being honest. Let's talk about it.
I know, but in my defense,
I'm not making fun.
I know, but in my defense, I only do it whenever he's kind of being a goof.
Yes,
which is not that often, but like I felt like last week or 2 weeks ago it was pertinent, like where he was kind of like I thought that whole all-in footage was a bad idea. So if he's going to be a goof, I'm going to put a goofy picture. But I've done it to Vince, I've done it to Triple H, and Akibono's story did it to myself.
But the difference is the algorithm treats the Tony Khan stuff better.
Yeah.
Right. That was we didn't advertise, but it was our best drawing episode ever.
No,
right.
It barely beat out the John Laurinaitis one. John Laurinaitis was our biggest. And and I put a funny picture, not funny, but like a weird picture of John Laurinaitis too.
Yeah.
Like him making some kind of face.
Because
like
that's how you play into the narrative. And most people that would post that Tony Khan thing would be like an Eric Bischoff clone of being like, AEW is gonna die, blah blah blah, and we don't do that. So I do think, like I said, like you play into the tropes, but I don't think that we deliver on it the way that I think people who see our pictures are, would think that we do. Which is why we get a lot of comments like, "You guys are idiots, man." So, and I'm fine with it. I don't care.
Yeah,
but I mean, that's the price to play.
I feel we do it to everybody. Hell, I did it to Scott D'Amore when he got fired. Like. But I mean but like I've been watching a lot of like and this is just a little bit inside baseball about podcasting and growing a YouTube. I've just been watching videos on how to grow YouTube, and they say you need eye-catching thumbnails, right? Eye-catching thumbnails. And I am not a Photoshop expert, so I do everything just on my phone. I should take a class in DeKalb High School about how to use Photoshop. Probably I know a teacher that can do that, but I just do everything I do everything on my phone with this app called Canva. And then there's another app called AI Mirror, and it says AI, but it's not like generating fake images. All it's doing is it's taking the image and just brightening it and sharpening it and getting the features out. And so I do that, and then on my phone I can just like cut out the part that I want and make a transparent image, and then I just slap it on a Canva thing, and then I upload that as a thumbnail. This is completely boring to the audience about like my strategy for YouTube, but that's been the strategy, and it's been growing pretty well, right? And so I don't feel like I'm doing anything dishonest. And I know Joe called out like funny Tony Khan face. So I did put a comment in the YouTube. I was like, hey, just so you guys know, when I put funny Tony Khan face, like I get like 600% more likes if I do that, or 600% more views. right? It works. But what I won't do is like if he's doing something cool, like tonight we're gonna get into. If he's doing something cool, I'm not gonna put like unflattering Tony Khan image, right? I'm gonna make sure it fits the story.
Baby Wishes, thank you for the YouTube talk. Hey, I think I like
Yeah.
how this stuff to me. Mike, I have my whole class on Google Drive. I should just give you the links to everything, and you can learn Photoshop if you wanted.
I could, but then I'd have to pay for Photoshop. My wife stopped doing
Huey?
photography. Yeah, my wife stopped doing photography, and thank you, baby Huey. Actually, Danny just texted me too. He's watching live. So, yeah. So my wife, she was like a professional photographer a little bit, like a freelancer, and so she
Mhm.
was like had Photoshop. So she was like teaching me some stuff, but since she's not doing that gig anymore, I'm just not. We don't have
No.
like access to it.
Well, I mean, you could have access to it if someone gave you their, Adobe Cloud login information or something.
Well, since you brought it up,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, but anyways, like you're right. I mean, this is the thing. It's like this is why I wanted to bring this up because I mean, like you can. I think I just want to say because you could easily say, well, that's exactly what you guys do, and it is because it works. Yeah. Because that is what plays well with the algorithm. Because WWE PR has done such a great job spinning this that this is what serves. Like this is what works, right? And it's bad. It's really bad for AEW.
Yeah. Yeah, and they really need to step up their game, and I think they have the money to do that. And that was part of the conversation that we had with BJ is like they have the means to be able to hire these folks, but right now they just AEW just doesn't have the infrastructure to compete at that level.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the Democratic Party versus the Green Party. You know, when it comes to that, like and like narrative spin and like they have like full blown sharks. Like I bet Nick Khan could run like a presidential campaign. I fully believe that he could, and he would probably do a great job.
Thank God he's not.
Yes, yes.
I mean, like,
he might go for somebody that we wouldn't like.
That's what I'm saying. If this man chose to use his powers for evil instead of like, kind of evil, like it could be scary to be quite frank. I mean, like ultimately, like this, I'm not trying to downplay the Janelle Grant thing whatsoever because they have really tried to distance themselves from that. Although I do think they're, you know what I think, but. Yeah, like if he was so inclined, it could be spooky because they're really, really good at this. Yeah. And unfortunately, Tony Khan he's out of his element with something. He's really good at being a shit poster, but being a shit poster isn't like being a goddamn tiger, right? Yeah. That's what you're up against here. Is you're up against a damn tiger, and like this whole glorifying of Triple H, which makes me sick to my stomach every time I see it. Is playing so well because now they've had to build their new demagogue, right? Mm-hmm. They've had to build their new guy because they got to get the attention off of Vince, and they think Triple H is the guy to do that with. Maybe he's got less skeletons in his closet.
Maybe I don't know that that's true.
I don't know that's true at all.
It is true or that it's not true, but
I don't know either. I don't know it either way. But I mean, that's why I said maybe.
I really don't want to assume that someone doesn't or does at this point because nothing would shock me.
No.
Right? Yeah.
If you just assume that everybody's a scumbag, you're never let down.
Yeah.